I want you to do something for me real quick. Look around the room you're in right now. Go ahead. Actually do it. Now, are you sure you're alone? Because the people in these stories thought the same thing. They thought they knew their surroundings. They thought they were safe. One of them was sitting exactly where you are right now, just scrolling, just existing, just living their life. When everything changed, I get submissions from all over. Hundreds of them. Most are creepy. Some are unsettling. But every once in a while, I get one that makes me stop what I'm doing and just sit with it for a minute. These are 3 of those stories. I'll let them speak for themselves. This story comes from a guy named Caleb. He's 31, lives in the Pacific Northwest, Washington State, right on the edge of a national forest. He sent me this about 8 months ago, and I've been sitting on it because, honestly, I wasn't sure how to tell it without it sounding like I made it up. I didn't make it up. So Caleb moved into this house in 2021, rural area, nearest neighbor about a quarter mile down the road, surrounded by trees on 3 sides. He'd wanted that kind of isolation his whole life. Grew up in cities, spent his 20s crammed into apartments within walls and loud neighbors. When he finally had enough saved up to rent somewhere remote, he jumped at it. For the first year and a half, he loved it. He'd come home from work, sit on his back porch, watch the tree line, drink his coffee. Sometimes deer would come out, sometimes nothing at all, just silence and wind. He said it was the first time in his adult life he actually felt at peace. Then one evening in November, and he's specific about this, it was a Tuesday, he'd just gotten back from a late shift. He pulled into his driveway and noticed his back porch light was on. He didn't remember leaving it on. He almost didn't think anything of it. Almost. But something made him pause before going inside. He stood by his car for a second, looking at the house. Everything looked normal. Porch light on, curtains closed, his dog Duke barking a little from inside like usual. He went in, fed Duke, made dinner, sat down. It was around 9 p.m. when Duke started acting weird. Not barking. He wasn't doing that. He was just staring at the back door, completely still, ears flat, the kind of still that dogs do when they hear something you can't. Caleb looked out the back window. Nothing, just a yard and the dark tree line beyond it. He tried to ignore it, watched TV for a bit, but Duke wouldn't move, wouldn't eat the rest of his food, just kept staring at that door with this low, barely audible whine coming from the back of his throat. Around 11, Caleb finally got up and turned on the back floodlight. There was a man standing at the tree line, not walking, not moving, just standing there with his hands at his sides, facing the house. Caleb said his first instinct was to wave, like maybe it's a neighbor, maybe someone's dog got loose, maybe it's nothing. So he waved. The man didn't wave back, didn't move at all. Caleb watched him for about 5 minutes. The man didn't shift his weight, didn't look away, just stood there, completely still, facing the house like he was waiting for something. Caleb called his neighbor, a guy named Frank who lived down the road. Frank said it was probably just a hiker who got turned around on the trails. It happens sometimes, especially after dark. Caleb said okay, probably, and went to bed. He should not have gone to bed. At 2:17 a.m., he remembers the exact time because he looked at his phone. Duke lost it, not whining anymore. Full, desperate barking, clawing at the back door like he was trying to dig through it. Caleb grabbed his flashlight and went to the back window. The man was in the yard. He wasn't at the tree line anymore. He was maybe 30 feet from the back porch, standing in the middle of the grass, still facing the house. Same position, hands at his sides, head up, just watching. Caleb called 911. He grabbed his shotgun. He kept one for this exact reason, living alone out there. And he sat in his kitchen with his back to the wall, and Duke pressed against his leg, waiting. The deputies got there in about 15 minutes. They searched the property, the yard, the tree line, A good stretch of the woods beyond it. They had flashlights. They were thorough. They found footprints coming out of the trees, crossing the yard, stopping about 25 feet from the back porch, and then nothing. No footprints going back to the woods. No footprints going sideways. No sign that whoever made them had walked in any direction whatsoever. Just two impressions in the wet grass, side by side, facing the house, and then nothing, like the person had simply ceased to exist at that exact spot. The deputies didn't have an explanation. They told him to call if anything else happened, did one more sweep the tree line, and left. Caleb did not sleep that night. He moved out 3 weeks later, broke his lease, lost his deposit. He told me, and I keep coming back to this line, he said, "I've thought about those footprints every single night since. Not about who the man was or why he was there, just about where he went, because he went somewhere. He had to. People don't just disappear." Yeah, they don't. Before I get into this one, I want to say I've gotten variations of creepy camping stories 100 times. Most of them are the same. Sounds in the night, shadows between trees. Something moved your stuff. I've heard it all. This one is different. This one has a detail at the end that I genuinely cannot explain, and I've tried. The woman who sent this is named Diane. She's 32. She's been a solo backpacker since she was in her early 20s. She knows what she's doing in the outdoors. She's not someone who scares easy. She made that very clear in her email, which, honestly, just made the story hit harder. This happened in the Appalachian Mountains in late September. She was doing a 4-day solo trip, camped at a remote backcountry site, maybe 3 miles from the nearest trailhead. Beautiful area. She'd been there before. She felt comfortable there. First night, perfect. Fire, stars, the whole thing. She fell asleep easily. Second night, she was setting up for dinner when she noticed a campsite across the clearing had a tent. An old canvas tent, dark green, kind of sag on the left side like one of the poles wasn't quite seated right. She hadn't noticed it when she arrived, but she figured maybe someone had set up while she was out on a day hike. She called over hello. Nothing. No movement inside the tent, no light, no sound of anyone rustling around. She figured whoever was had gone for an evening walk. She made her dinner, cleaned up, sat by her fire for a while. The other campsite stayed quiet and dark all evening. She went to sleep around 10. She woke up at 1 a.m., not gradually, just snapped awake, instantly. The way your body does when something's wrong before your brain has caught up. She lay completely still in her sleeping bag, eyes open, staring at the ceiling of her tent, trying to figure out what had pulled her out of sleep. Then she heard it, breathing, right outside the tent wall. Slow and steady, almost deliberate, like someone standing directly outside the fabric, close enough that she could hear the rhythm of their inhale and exhale. She did not move. She lay there for, she says it felt like an hour, but was probably closer to 20 minutes, completely rigid, not making a sound, listening to that slow, even breathing just on the other side a thin layer of nylon. And then it stopped, just stopped. She didn't hear footsteps walking away. No rustling, no sounds of movement. It just went quiet. She didn't sleep again. Lay there until it was fully light out, then made herself get up. She checked the ground outside her tent. It had rained lightly the day before, enough to leave the soil soft. There were footprints, large, boot-sized impressions, circling her tent slowly, multiple times around. She walked over to the other campsite, partly because she wanted to confront whoever it was, and partly, she admitted this, because part of her needed there to be a normal explanation. A person, a hiker, someone who'd had a weird sleepwalking episode, or something. She unzipped the tent. Empty. No sleeping bag. No pad. No pack. No food. No gear. Nothing. Just a canvas shell of a tent, empty and musty, like it had been sitting there for a long time. She hiked out that morning. all 3 miles in under an hour. She said she basically ran the last stretch without meaning to. At the trailhead, she stopped at the ranger station, told the ranger on duty what had happened. The tent, the breathing, the footprints circling her sight. When she described the tent, old green canvas, sagging on the left side, the ranger went quiet. He looked at her for a second, then looked down at the desk. "We've had reports of that tent," he said, "from other campers, different times of year." He looked at her for a second, then looked down at the desk. "We've had reports of that tent," he said, "from other campers, different times of year." She asked him when. He said he wasn't sure. She asked him what they'd found when they investigated. He said he didn't know the details. He wouldn't look at her. She pushed him. "Has anyone actually checked that campsite?" And he said they had people look into it when reports came in. She asked what they found. Long pause. "Nothing." He said they never found anything. "The tent, the footprints, nothing, every single time. I want you to pay close attention to this one, because there's no supernatural element here. No ghost, no mystery, no detail that can't be explained. This story is frightening for a completely different reason. His name is Ryan. He's 27 now, was 25 when this happened. He just moved to a small town in rural Tennessee for a new job. Didn't know anyone in town yet, new place, new routine. He'd rented a house by himself, modest little place on a quiet street. Settled in pretty quickly. He'd been there about 6 weeks. It was a Wednesday night, close to midnight. He was in bed, not quite asleep yet, just on his phone winding down. His house was locked. He was diligent about that, always had been. Front door locked, back door locked. He'd even started locking his bedroom door out of habit after years of apartment living. He heard the front door open. Not a knock, not the doorbell. The door just opened. He heard the mechanism, heard the door swing, heard it close again, and then footsteps. Slow, relaxed footsteps moving through his living room. Ryan said the first thing he felt wasn't fear. It was confusion. His brain genuinely couldn't process what was happening because it didn't make sense. The door was locked. How was someone inside? He sat up in bed and just froze. The footsteps moved through the living room. He heard what he thinks was someone setting something down on the kitchen counter. A bag, maybe, or keys. Then the footsteps came down the hallway, toward his bedroom. He grabbed his phone. No time to call 911 out loud. He typed his address into the emergency text line his county had. Typed it wrong twice because his hands were shaking, and slid off the bed and got into the closet, pulling the door almost shut behind him, leaving just a crack. His bedroom door opened. He could see through the crack. A man walked into the room. Mid-40s, average build, dressed like someone who'd just come home from a bar, jeans, a collared shirt, slightly disheveled. He wasn't rushing. He wasn't sneaking. He walked in the way you walk into your own bedroom, completely unhurried. The man stood in the middle of the room for a moment, looking around. Then he walked toward the closet. Ryan said he stopped breathing, just completely stopped, pressed himself back against the wall, stared at the crack of light getting wider as the door opened. The man opened the closet and looked in. He looked at Ryan. Ryan looked at him. For a second, neither of them moved. And then the man looked around the closet slowly, at the clothes on the hangers, at the shelves, at Ryan's stuff, and said, very quietly, almost to himself, "This isn't my house, is it?" Not a question. He wasn't asking Ryan. He was just arriving at a conclusion out loud. He turned around, walked back out of the bedroom, down the hall, through the living room, out the front door. Ryan heard a car start in the driveway, heard it pull out and drive away. He sat in that closet for another 10 minutes before he could make himself move. The police found the man 20 minutes later, parked in his own driveway 2 streets over. He was cooperative, polite, confused. He'd been at a bar with friends, had too much gotten turned around. His house and Ryan's were similar. Same layout, same street style. He'd gone what he thought was his door. Found it unlocked. Wait, Ryan's door was locked. Ryan locked it every night. He was certain. The police report noted this. The man had no explanation for how he got in. He said the door just opened when he tried the handle. He was cited for disorderly conduct. Small fine. No criminal charges. Ryan moved out the next day. He didn't pack everything. Didn't wait for his landlord. He took his essentials and left and stayed in a motel for 2 weeks while he found somewhere else. He emailed me a few months after it happened, and the last line of his email is the part that stuck with me. He wrote, "The thing I can't shake isn't how he got in. It's how calm he was when he saw me. Not scared, not embarrassed, not surprised. Just calm, like this had happened before. Like he'd opened the wrong closet before, and it had just worked out differently. Just worked out differently." Here's the thing about these stories that I keep coming back to. None of them started with anything dramatic. A porch light that was maybe left on. A tent across a clearing. A sound at midnight that might have been nothing. That's how it always starts. With something small enough that your brain talks you out of it. It's probably just a hiker. It's probably just another camper. It's probably nothing. Go back to sleep. And most of the time, it is nothing. Most of the time, the sound outside is the wind, and the shadow in the yard is a deer, and the footsteps are just a house settling. Most of the time. These people trusted that, and then they found out what the other times feel like. Lock your doors tonight. Check your surroundings. And if your dog is staring at something you can't see, pay attention. I'll see you in the next one.